Cleveland Browns and Seattle Seahawks were finally moving into the afternoon games because they decided to put 19 games in the early window and 4 in the afternoon window. Thanks a lot.
Tell me about it, Matt.
Yeah.
Come join me on Sunday afternoons for a radio show with a third of the games there.
I mean,
most
of
of them
like
gone.
I have 6 TVs. I should be able to watch the vast majority of the games in the morning and the vast majority of the games in the afternoon. This should not be an issue for me. I have 6 TVs, NFL. Like, what is going on with all
I
this?
drive
Anyway,
a Dodge Stratus.
seriously, Cleveland Browns, Seattle Seahawks, it's now 3.5. So another game that, if you want to know the type of money coming in, because we talked about a game earlier whenever we were talking about Houston. This also was at 2.5, has moved all the way through the 3 to 3.5 in favor of the Seahawks. 37.5 is your total. My handicap in this game is pretty much garbage at this point because I took the 2.5 on Seattle. It's now on the other side of the 3. It's a little bit harder for me to make the argument, but I will say this. If I had to play this game, given what I know right now about this Cleveland Browns team, Adam, I'm playing the Seahawks because this quarterback situation is very, very bad for the Browns. And I get it. The defense is still good, and they're still going to get pressure with their front four and all of that stuff. But we've seen them get shredded in the secondary a couple of weeks in a row. And I have no faith in them putting actual real offensive points on the board. Like, don't get, we know that game where they scored all the points was not offensive points that they were scoring. So even on the other side of 3, if I had to play this, I'd still play it at Seattle. Of course, guys, it's not a full endorsement here. You want to get this to 3. I imagine there's going to be some people intrigued to take the 3 and a hook on the Browns. You might see an expensive 3 flash. If that's the case, I think that would be a buy point for me again if I didn't already have the 2.5. But look, a team that can't score the football, to me, I don't care how good the defense is. Like, I get it. Browns are good at defense. If you cannot put 10 points on the board with your offense, then that doesn't matter how good your defense is. And that's kind of where I almost feel the Browns are right now.
So Seattle's a weird team. I'm going to start on that side of it, right? We've seen them look very, very good. They went into Detroit and won, and we saw them kind of just jerk around with the Arizona Cardinals last week and never really truly pull away in a game where I think everybody felt kind of lucky to get their teasers home that they thought were going to be sort of lead pipe locks. So now let's go to the other side and talk about Philip J. Walker, the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. The bottom 3 quarterbacks by Pro Football Focus grade this year. Desmond Ridder has a grade of 49. And for comparison, Lamar Jackson leads the league at 90.8. Gardner Minshew has a 48.3. PJ Walker has a 29.5. And despite that, the Cleveland Browns have won both of the games that he has started. So if I get on here and yell about the fraudulence of the Pittsburgh Steelers, I have to yell about the fraudulence of the last 2 victories for the Cleveland Browns, especially them putting up 39 points against Indianapolis. And so this is going to be another team total situation where I look at a 16.5 sitting on the board right now for the Cleveland Browns, and short of a defensive score, and you have to factor that in if you're going to play it that way, short of a defensive score, I have trouble seeing how a team with no running backs and PJ Walker at quarterback is going to score 17 points. If you want to lay the 3.5, I have no trouble laying the 3.5 because of this. We're also talking back-to-back road games here for Cleveland, and we're talking about having to make the West Coast trip with PJ Walker as your quarterback.
Number 1 corner in the NFL by every metric on the Seattle side as well. So, not that you really have to erase Amari Cooper when you have PJ Walker at quarterback, but that is at least something else that we can talk about with all this. Steven, it's just, look, I can admit when I'm wrong on things, and it just didn't play out the way they played out for me. I had the Browns as a playoff team. Now I have them as a pretty, I don't look very highly of this team, whatsoever. If they didn't have this defense that they have, they would probably be in the bottom 5 or 6 for me, in the NFL. It's just like, you have to at least give credit that the defense is going to keep them in a lot of these games. What do you see here from the Browns on the road at Seattle?
First of all, if the Browns or the Steelers take a playoff spot away with their defensive voodoo from my Texans playoff futures at sick prices. I'm just going to be beside myself at the end of the year. Last 3 weeks, net yards per play, Seahawks, number 2 in the NFL, Browns, number 31 in the NFL. I cannot wait to be sitting on my couch on Sunday and figure out how I lost the Seahawks minus 2.5 bet. And if I do, it's probably because the Seahawks are 29th in the NFL in red zone offense and converting touchdowns over the last 3 games. And they were 21st on the season.
That is where Geno struggles. It really is.
Yes.
That's where Geno struggles. Like
they really were the right side against Cincinnati.
This is true. Inside joke, guys.
We had a huge Slack debate on that Cincy-Seattle game, but the red zone offense is not new for Seattle, Matt. They were 21st on the season overall at 48%, and that 48% is the exact same percentage that they had last year with Geno Smith. So this is an ongoing problem for them. That's where this goes wrong for Seattle, but I cannot. And we've had a huge argument between myself and a couple of people on our staff, Mona War and Brett Gibbons. And I love our arguments because they are heated but respectful, and we still are great friends at the end of it. They were lining up to take Browns plus 3.5 this week. And I'm like, PJ Walker is horrendous. And they're like, they had a game against San Francisco in bad weather. I'm like, okay, last week in a dome, he was 24th out of 25 quarterbacks in CPOE and EPA composite, ahead of only Brian Hoyer. And his expected completion percentage was pretty solid, except he was 19% below his expected completion percentage at the end of the game and only had a 40% success rate. Oh, but that's only a 2-game sample. In past years, Philip Walker Jr. has been a pretty good backup in the NFL. In 21 and 22, he was 52nd out of 55 quarterbacks in EPA and CPOE composite with only a 35% success rate. So you want to take the hook with the Browns and hope that Myles Garrett jumps over a line and blocks a field goal again or something, or they get a crazy flag at the end of the game that gives them the win against Indianapolis, go ahead. But to me, that's betting results over process. And to me, the only side you can consider here if you're doing process over results is Seattle.
Yeah, listen, quarterback, we cannot emphasize this enough. Like, yes, bad quarterbacks are going to eventually stumble into wins. It does happen. But we have enough of a sample size now of PJ Walker, and these teams have tape on him. It's not like the Bagent thing from a week ago where it's like, like now teams have tape on him, and like there's all this stuff that like you can start to like pick apart with. Like, we've seen enough PJ Walker. Like, I don't know what in the world you would be latching onto at this point with a banged up backfield, with all the stuff they've got going on. Like, yeah, it's super, super tough for me to get there. Yeah, if you want to take 3.5, more power to you. You got to sit through that as well. You got to sit through PJ Walker if you want to play that side of everything.